What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Press for Presence. Today is a special episode because we are doing the first planned solo podcast. One of my favorite things when I did my old podcast, The Owner's Journal with Clay, was a little tradition that we started to do a solo episode about every 10 episodes. I really like that because essentially it gives us a check-in like every other month or like 5 times a year to talk a little bit about what is going on in my life and some of the things that are going on with the show and with the business and all that kind of stuff. And it is also fantastic practice for me actually having to be in the hot seat and talk a little bit. So today we are doing a Q&A episode, and all of these questions came from Instagram. So thank you to everybody who is following along, who's listening to the show, and who's really like taking the time to think about like insightful questions and deep things, because that's really what makes these episodes. So I feel super blessed to have an audience like you guys who care about getting the most out of life, who care about asking the hard questions and thinking deeply about things. And I feel really honored to even be in a place where you guys are willing to ask such deep questions and listen to my insights on things. So if you're listening right now, we are still very early in this show. This will be 20 episodes in, and I don't think that we'll be stopping until episode 2000 and beyond. So if you're listening right now, thank you so much for being here. This project is super fun at times. I get some really beautiful messages from people who say that something that a guest says really connects with them, or that they were able to take something from an episode that really made their lives better. And that just means the world to me. It's why I do this. And there are a lot of days that are fairly low too. If you are watching on any of our channels right now, like our subscriber count isn't crazy, our followers on social media aren't crazy. And it's not like this was just like an overnight viral success or anything like that. So it is very much for the love of the game and all of the connections that I get to make with guests and with everybody who listens. So if you are one of those people and you're listening right now, which if you're hearing this, clearly you are, thank you so much for being here and for supporting this project. It's literally the only reason that this is happening right now. So I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for giving me the most valuable thing that you have, which is your attention. And I hope I can continue to do good things with it. So with that being said, we have got some questions today from some of my favorite people who are great friends of my life, people who listen to the show, and some real deep cats. So looking forward to that, and let's get into it. Question number 1 is from Harrison Ashby, my guy. He also submitted some great questions on the last Q&A episode, so go check that out if you haven't already. Harrison asked a question: how does Harrison get a hat? My guess is that he's talking about this guy. If you're listening right now and not listening to audio, it's the Be Where Your Feet Are hat. This is probably my most worn out item in my wardrobe. One of my buddies asked me the other day how many of these I own, because I actually probably wear one 95% of the days that I'm walking God's green earth. I really like them. They match like all of the shit that I wear, other than when I throw on a shirt that's navy and then things get complicated. But yeah, these hats are super cool. I'm really excited about how they turned out. That being said, there is literally only one left. These hats were originally made for the Owner's Journal podcast, and they were a drop that we did right after our 21st episode drop that we did. So this slogan, "Be Where Your Feet Are," is something that like super resonated with me the first time that I heard it. And I really need to hear it like over and over and over and over again, because it's one of the things that I aspire to do the most, but it's also at times one of the things that I'm the worst at. So the design turned out cool. I ended up doing the design that's on the front of it. The hat turned out great, and the printer's Dynamic Designs over in Laurel, Montana, they have come through in the clutch a million times for me, and they did a great job on these hats too. So That being said, Harrison, there is one more left, and I promised it to Tyler Geiger, who will actually be in the studio tomorrow. So sorry about that, my guy. That being said, I have been thinking about doing a merch run for Press for Presence. I think Be Where Your Feet Are would be the best slogan to do it for because A, I need to see that reminder more places, and B, I think that it really resonates with people just when it comes up in conversation, but also just kind of in general. So we did these hats last time. We've gotten a lot of compliments on them, and I see a lot of people wearing them around and stuff like that, which not much makes me happier. So thank you for everybody who's rocking it. That being said, I know not everybody is a hat person. I have got a bald head, so I like to wear hats pretty often. And I know not everybody likes rocking hats. So maybe we'll do a t-shirt next or something like that. For the Owner's Journal, we did a drop on the 21st episode to celebrate technically being in the top 1% of podcasts in the world. For those of you who don't know, if you release 21 episodes of a podcast, that puts your show in the top 1% of podcasts as far as longevity goes. So maybe we'll do something around that. We're going to hit episode 21 here in mid-July, late July. So who knows what we'll end up doing with that. But I would like to do a merch drop. So if you've got any ideas and you're listening to this, shoot me a DM on Instagram and tell me what you want to wear. I'm kind of leaning towards t-shirts right now just because I think that that's the easiest between a bunch of different like genders and ages and styles and stuff like that. So I'll start designing some cool stuff and hopefully you guys like it. But yeah, Harrison, sorry about the hats. We'll do another run here at some point. Caden Venata, my dog, he said, tell people how a real dog bowl is made. I'm going to put you guys onto the dog bowl. The dog bowl is probably my most eaten meal of all time. And it is really easy to meal prep. So what we do is we do zucchini, we do onions, mushrooms, saute all of that in a pan, throw like, depending on if you're meal prepping or if you're just doing dinner for the night, you can do like a half pound up to like 4 pounds of ground beef. Typically, Kaden and I will do like 4 pounds if we're meal prepping for the week. And so you let all of that cook together. You can throw some rice in there at some point and then throw some beef broth in with it if you want to cook the rice in it. We have screwed up the rice almost every single week that we've tried doing it that way. And we've had crunchy rice for lunch for the rest of the week. And so we have recently switched over to the 90-second bag rice, which I have no regrets about because having consistently not crunchy rice is awesome. So it's honestly a great meal, though. A lot of times we'll throw like Japanese barbecue and spicy mayo on there. You can throw some avocado if you're feeling fancy, throw an egg on there. It's just a great foundation for doing your dang thing. You've got veggies in there. You've got your carbs with the rice. You've got your protein with the ground beef. And it's super tasty. So that is a well we keep on going back to. And honestly, it's one of the few things that I feel like I can cook that seems a little bit fancier, I guess, because there's more than like 3 ingredients in it. So if you watch my goofy little cooking class time-lapse stories on Instagram, if you go back and watch them, this is like 90% of what those recipes are. So I've got a very short menu as far as things that I am good at cooking, but they sure do taste good. And I typically go back over and over and over again to like 4 different recipes. So that's one of them. It's called the dog bowl. We also eat them like unironically in these black bowls that I got from At Home in Billings that are like kind of trendy looking. Like they're kind of a plate, kind of a bowl. They've got those like ridges that are not super tall. It's not like full bowl vibes, but it's not full plate vibes. And that was really cool right up until we made these things that are called dog bowls. And then it literally looked like they they were going in a dog bowl. So almost gave us the ick, but we skirted that. Thank goodness. So that's how you do a dog bowl. If you want more info on that, go to my story highlights and go to the cooking class tab. It's in there. Hey guys, just a brief pause in the show to ask one quick favor. A lot of you guys who listen, even the day ones who listen every week, have yet to rate this show on their favorite platform. And so that's the one thing that I'm going to ask you guys. It really helps us grow the show. It helps us get awesome guests on the show. And if you could give us a 5-star rating on your favorite platform that you're listening on right now, it would probably take 10 seconds, but it would mean the world to me. And it'll really help us continue to make an awesome show for you guys. So if you don't mind, that's the only ask. We're not running any ads right now. We're not asking anything of you guys. We just want to be putting out a great show. So if you could go do that, that'd be awesome. And until then, let's get back to the show. Next question is from Jerome Miller. Jerome was one of the first cats that I got to interact with when I was in college, who was about as business-minded as I was. He's done some really cool things. He's living out in Texas now. So Jerome, my guy, what's up? Jerome asked, what is your workout split right now? I actually don't get a ton of questions about like working out, boxing, MMA, and all that kind of stuff. So I was kind of excited about this one. I've done a lot of testing around workout splits and that kind of stuff since I got done playing football. I don't think that during the time that I was playing high school and college sports, I like really understood how much of a luxury it was to have somebody like writing all of your programming and to have a set time to lift every day and to have 40 people to lift with and all the stuff. So since then, I feel like it was kind of like a bit of a challenge to figure out like, where do I get my programming from? How often do I work out? What time of day do I work out? And over the last, gosh, how long has it been since I graduated? 26. So over the last 4 years, I've really done a lot of testing around that. And I think that I'm kind of getting into a good place with it. So right now what I'm doing is I am lifting 4 days a week. So I will lift Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I like having that day in the middle because it's like a little bit of an active recovery day, and it makes it feel like less of a drag, I suppose, like on those mornings where they're discipline days instead of motivation days. So that's been a good split for me right now. I will typically do like a leg day on a Monday, a upper body day on a Tuesday. Wednesdays I'll do some kind of active recovery, so I will run, I'll stretch, I'll go for a walk. I will do jujitsu sometimes. I'll try to get to an open mat. Like literally anything to get active on a Wednesday is great. Sometimes I'll go longboarding on the rims, like literally just whatever. But if I can get outside, that's usually best. I'll also do another like leg day Thursday, upper body day Friday on the second half of the week. And then Saturdays, I like to train MMA. So I will go to open mat and I'll try to get some rolls in and some boxing in. If I've got a fight coming up or if I'm just like really enjoying boxing, I'll just box for 2 hours. But if I'm like in an off season or I'm feeling like rolling, I'll try to split that like 1 hour and 1 hour. I'll also box on Monday and Tuesday nights, which makes Mondays and Tuesdays 2-a-days technically. But I really like the cardio from boxing and like being able to be good at it. So there's that. And then on Sundays, I will do Smiles Over Miles Run Club, which is every Sunday at 9 a.m. if you live here in beautiful Billings, Montana, down at Riverfront Park. And we'll just run a casual little like 2 miles at a super slow pace. Try to get some zone 2 cardio in, and then a lot of times we'll do like a cold plunge or jump in the river, do something like that afterwards. So another kind of like active recovery day. But I found that it's really good for me to get outside and be doing stuff pretty much every day. And my brain doesn't work as good when I'm not working out. So that's my current split right now. I just started working out at Beartooth Performance probably 2 months ago now, and I will work that in 2 to 3 days a week, just depending on how I'm feeling. Some days I'll make that my Wednesday, like active recovery. Other weeks I will work in like a leg day at Beartooth. I'll go lift at like a public regular gym the other days, and then kind of do a split like that. So super grateful for their programming, and they pushed me to do a lot of like movements and intensity that I wouldn't do otherwise. So I really enjoy like that group workout kind of thing to get some of that stuff in. It's also great for community too. So much recommended. And if you're in Billings, come work out with me at 6 a.m. All right. That was a fun one. Thanks, Jerome. The next question I got is also from Jerome. He asked, what are my favorite 3 books right now? I feel like answering what your favorite 3 books are is very difficult. It's like trying to answer what your favorite restaurants or your favorite songs are. And I feel like I've got different books for different things. So I'm actually really excited about the most recent 3 books that I read. So I'm going to give you guys those instead. Right now I'm reading The Creative Act by Rick Rubin, which I'm super excited about. I've been looking at that one on my list for quite a while and finally got around to it. Rick Rubin, for those of you who don't know, is a creative director. He's a producer. He's done all sorts of cool stuff. He was the founder of Def Jam Records, and is just like a musical savant. It's really funny because he doesn't play any instruments. He doesn't sing. He doesn't do anything like that, but he's just got like this really in tune sense for creativity and the creative process and authenticity and like what's going to connect with people. And he made this book that is like these choppy little segments about like ideas around creativity, whether that's ways to inspire creative flow, ways that you can like juice up your creativity, reflections on what it's like to be in creative ruts, like all of these different things. And I found that it's a really great book for like a coffee table book or something if you're traveling. Because you can pick it up and put it down and like choose to read a segment for 5 minutes and be done for the day and just chew on that. Or you can just like ingest a bunch of it at one time and, read a bunch of it. So I've been really enjoying that one so far. I'm probably 100 pages in, and I've just been loving it. So, I would definitely recommend that one for anybody who's in any sort of creative pursuit or anybody who has a creative hobby. Whether that's video, painting, photos, whatever your thing is. It's freaking awesome. So have been loving that one. The one that I read before that was Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain. I've been a consumer of Bourdain's quotes for a really long time. And I always love when he pops up on my social media feeds and I see like the iconic photos of him doing his thing in the kitchen or like smoking cigarettes in France or doing whatever the heck he was doing. And I really decided to dive deeply into Anthony Bourdain's life and some of his travel shows and some of the stuff like that, probably 8 or 9 months ago. And his story is just incredible. Kitchen Confidential is a book that's essentially like all of the behind the scenes of the culinary world. And it's also kind of autobiography-esque about Anthony Bourdain's like upbringing in the restaurant industry as well. So I thought that was really cool. He does a really good job of like documenting his thought processes through each of the phases that he was in and like where he was at mentally and all that kind of stuff, instead of just saying like, I was at this place in Massachusetts and I worked there for a while. And then I moved to this place in New York and I worked there for a while. I just think that it was super insightful for anybody who's like me, who's like chasing a dream, who's kind of in that muddy middle right now where I'm like trying to figure out how everything's going to fall into place and just like have to put my head down and grind. And I thought that it was also just really entertaining to like hear all of the things that go on in the restaurant industry as somebody who hasn't worked in it before. So huge fan of that one. My grandma read it as well on my recommendation, and there's definitely some edgy stuff in there that she was sure to text me about and tell me that she was a little bit surprised that I'd recommend it. So Grandma, if you're listening, I love you. Sorry for exposing you to anything that might have been scarring from the brain of Anthony Bourdain. And then the third book that I read the most recently is The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz. That is a beautiful book. He's an amazing author. And for those of you who don't know who he is or don't recognize that title, he's also the one that wrote The Four Agreements. which is a book that had a ton of impact in my life and kind of like turned some things around for me right around ninth grade. But The Mastery of Love was great. It was less about like, it was some of it was about relationship love and some of those sorts of things. But a lot of it was like talking about how to love yourself, how to love your life, how that plays into loving other people and like the respect that comes from that. And it was just like a really beautiful discussion about like not just seeing love as what happens between two people in a relationship. And so that book, I read it like a very profound time for me. And I feel like it's one of those ones that like you should I think I should probably go back and read like every year and a half. Just because I think that there's probably so much that I can take from it and probably pick out different things each time that I read it. So, forever grateful for Don Miguel Ruiz's writings, and that one is no exception. So those are my three favorites right now. I really love how Chris Williamson actually made a reading list, and this is something that I've been thinking about doing. So if you'd like me to make one of those, drop a comment or text me if you're my friend or whatever, and I'll send you some more recommendations. But those are three that are all of those are kind of all across the board, actually. So yeah, if you like one of those and you end up reading it, let me know what you think. I love coffee, so buy me some coffee and we'll talk about it. Question number 5 is from @immortal_caveman. My guy Hua. Nice username, dude. A little bit more serious question. He asked, how do you feel about planning versus improv? And he followed it by asking, does anything go to plan? The first thing that came to my mind and like the note that I jotted down for this one is, there's that classic saying, man, failure to plan is planning to fail. And I definitely lean towards that in most of my life. I think almost to a fault sometimes. I think that I suffer a little bit from analysis paralysis, and I tend to want all of the answers before I go into something. I'm like a planner to a fault, where I want to know like every different direction that something could go, and I want to know what all the potential outcomes could be and which ones are the best and how could any of these go sideways, and all of like, I want to have the entire picture laid out a lot of times before I make a move on something. And it's actually one of the qualities that I'm not a super huge fan of about myself. Especially being in entrepreneurship and having creative projects like this podcast and the Run Club and things like that. I think a lot of times speed is rewarded over like trying to nail it perfectly before you even get started. And so it's something that I've struggled a little bit about, and something I've actually tried untraining myself a little bit when it comes to like that way over planning, over analysis kind of thing. That being said, when it comes to how I feel about planning versus improvising, I think that it's super smart to set out some kind of a plan before you get started on something, only because I think that it's important to know why you're doing something. For example, I think that I think that you almost need to start with the end goal in mind. Like for this podcast, for example, I know that my end goal is to have a really awesome platform where I can have people on the show who might not have a platform themselves, and be able to give them an opportunity to like showcase their life, showcase their ideas, showcase the way that they think about things, and get that in front of people who might not ever have a chance to consume their content, or might not ever have a chance to meet them in person or have those conversations. And I want my platform to be big enough where I can put somebody like that on and help more of the world see them. So that being said, the way that I would plan for this podcast to go, and like the guests that I would choose and the potential sponsorships and all that kind of stuff, like has to align with that end goal in mind. Planning for every single step and every single sponsor and stuff like that, like none of that is going to go to plan. But I think that having that end goal is super important. And if I didn't have that and I was like, well, I just want the show to be as big as it can possibly be, I think that that's where people kind of end up in these traps where like they're constantly trying to just like do ridiculous shit to go viral, or they're trying to like say something outlandish, or they're trying to like rage bait somebody into saying something crazy. And like, it works. People do that and go viral and all that kind of stuff. But like, if I were to go viral for that, or if I were to grow the show because of those sorts of things, then I would end up at the end with something that I want nothing to do with. Like, I don't want to sit down on this podcast and like think that every time I need to like try to bait somebody into saying something crazy or saying something controversial or trying to get a clip out of something. Like, I'm here to have good conversations with people and like hopefully have enough of those where more and more people listen, so that when I sit down with somebody, I can take somebody who nobody's heard of before and like put their message out there and like really help it resonate with people. So I don't know if that's a helpful example for you guys or not. Clearly it's very present for me, but when it comes to planning versus improv, I think it's really important to have a clear vision of what you want, like your end goal to look like, or what that intrinsic motivation is, and like the thing that's pulling you through whatever actions you're about to take are. But that being said, like planning every little route of how you're going to get there and trying to make sure that like every domino falls just in place, almost never happens. So, I think that's kind of where I fall with that. The follow-up question, does anything go to plan? Pretty much no, dude. Like, I don't really think so. I think that a lot of times like getting started is the thing. Because once you get started, like all of the chips and all of the variables that were like on the table at the beginning almost always get scrambled right out the gate. Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook went, I don't know if I'd say viral, but they had a very popular saying as they were growing, and like I would imagine that they still have it now, and they would say, move fast and break things. And what I love about that is like all of the time when you're moving quickly and you're making decisions and you're launching things and you're like just like in this constant state of motion where if you have an idea and you try it, I think a lot of times, even if that doesn't go exactly how you want it to, or if it fails or whatever the thing is, I think that you get more insights from like the lessons that you learn by actually going down all of those different paths and trying a bunch of different things than you would just like sitting at the starting line and being like, okay, well, if I think my way through all of these 50 different pathways, then maybe I can choose the right one and it'll be a straight line to the finish. In my experience with business and so many other things, like it's almost never a straight line to the finish as much as a lot of times I want it to be. So one of the things that I try to take to heart is that move fast and break things, because it almost never goes how you think it's going to go. And if you can just try and test enough things, a lot of times you'll get the answers that you're looking for on the way, with the successes that you're going to have, and by screwing a lot of things up along the way. So, yeah, plan your end goal, let everything else ride going into that. Super great question, dude. I appreciate that. The next question is from the lovely Hunter Fisk. Hunter is just now moving to Montana. Well, not moving to Montana, moving to Billings, Montana. She's been a Butte rat her whole life, and we are super excited to have her. So, Hunter, thank you for all of your wisdom and questions, and always being rock solid. Hunter asked, what's a truth or reminder that you hold on to when your mind is in a hard place? This is super good, dude. I've gone through some pretty hard shit since last November, a lot of which was self-inflicted. But that being said, the one thing that has gotten me through, I'll restart on that. The thing that's probably gotten me through the most since I was in college is a very stoic saying, and it's one of the core tenets, and it's just, this too shall pass. When I'm going through hard things and I feel like everything's desperate, I feel like there's not a way out, I feel like there's so much going on that's just out of my control, telling myself this too shall pass is one of the most helpful frames, because it takes the responsibility of me having to try to figure everything out off of my plate. If we're here right now, then everything that's good in your life, everything that's bad in your life, everything that's happened up to this point has passed. You don't want the good moments to pass. You definitely want the bad ones to pass, but like everything up to this point has both started and finished. And I think that when I'm super in the weeds and like things aren't going how they want to with business, or things are difficult in a relationship, or I, screw something up and I have to deal with the repercussions, like whatever the thing is that's really difficult to be dealing with. When I remind myself that like this too shall pass, like there are just certain things that you can't control, and things are going to continue to move on with or without you. Like, it's a really helpful frame for me. It's also a really helpful frame for me too when I catch myself in a moment where I'm like really letting myself get to like the top of a mountain and like enjoy myself. Sometimes this too shall pass will set in at that point too. And it's great because it like really makes me like soak into that moment and be like, yeah, dude, this is going to be a memory here soon. Like, I better enjoy this and try to be where my feet are and be in the moment at that time. So I think that it's a very useful idea because when things are really hard, it's like, yeah, dude, we're going to get through this. Like, we're going to move on. Things are going to be okay. And the only way out of this is like just to keep going. And the only way that you don't get out of this is if you quit. So just keep going. It's also a very helpful frame when things are going good because it reminds you to be in the moment. So that's one of my favorite ones when I'm in a hard place. The other one, and this has been super helpful for me just recently, I had this phase between like November and March or so where I just was going through a ton of personal development after a breakup where I was in the wrong. A lot of things ended because of like actions that I took, and it like sent me down a path of a lot of like reflection, and I really did everything that I could to make sure that it turned into something that I grew from. And towards the end of that, some things were like going well with the business. I had made a hire that I was really excited about, who was running a lot of the operations in the business, and things were like finally starting to feel better in my personal life, and things were looking good in my business life. And right around that time, I actually lost that operations person who I'd been talking to, and there was no hard feelings, and I'm super excited. She had some things that, well, I actually announced it. She was pregnant and was being an awesome mom, decided to set everything aside and really focus on the baby, which I think is freaking awesome. So I'm super happy that is what ended up happening personally and as their friend. But professionally, I was just like, dude, I just went through all of this stuff to like get the business where it needed to be and get my personal life where it needed to be. And it just felt like this like crushing blow to me for some reason. Because I felt like I was like having to, like work way more in the business. When I had just felt like I had found some balance. I felt like it was going to be a very difficult chapter and like all of this different stuff. And at that time, I remember standing looking out over a pond in Billings in a little nature conservation area and just thinking like, dude, this is going to be so hard. Like, I remembered that like, I don't think that I have wanted to quit that bad in maybe ever. I knew I wasn't going to, but just like all of those feelings of just like, dude, it'd be just so easy if we just didn't deal with this. It was really heavy, man. And in that moment, I realized that everybody who I look up to and everybody who's been on the podcast who I consider a mentor and whose stories I look up to and people who I aspire to be like, almost every single one of them have a moment that most of the time we end up talking about at some point where they were at rock bottom. And in these moments, like these people have got tears in their eyes and they're like, even though that they're successful right now and they pulled up in a nice car and when I go visit them, they're in a nice house and they've got all of the things on paper. And a lot of them are living great lives right now. Almost all of them, when they talk about these low times, they get like, you can see the pain in their eyes. You can see like the tears that start welling up. And like, when they go back to that place, you can tell how fucking hard it was. And when I was looking over that pond, I realized that like, this is the moment that is going to put the tears in my eyes when I look back. It's like when I don't know if it's going to work or not, when I am putting in 70-hour, 80-hour weeks, when I have to say no to being there for like impactful moments in my family and impactful moments in some of my friendships and stuff like that. And it's like, this is the path that you chose to go down. And if this is the path that you're going to go down and the person that you're going to be, like, these are the fucking challenges you have to deal with. When I was in that moment, I realized that this is just going to be a chapter in my story. And some of the most impactful moments and some of like the most messages I get are about those moments where like somebody who's seen success and somebody who's been successful is tearing up remembering what it was like when they had to walk into an office and like get on food stamps, or when they had to like tell their kids that they weren't going to have Christmas that year because things weren't going right with the business or whatever the thing was. And I realized in that moment that like all of those are super beautiful stories, and that's what I get messages about, because it's like, how many movies have you watched that are really great where like, or any movie that you've watched where the character like starts out and they're having a really good time and then they continue to have a really good time and then nothing difficult happens in the movie and then the movie ends and it's like, okay, well, that's just a happy little ride. It never happens. It doesn't make for a good story. And so when I think about those really difficult times that I'm in and like I'm really feeling the weight of everything, if I can get myself to zoom out and say that this is just a chapter in my story, it's really helpful for me because it provides meaning to the shit that I'm going through. It allows me to feel like what I'm doing becomes part of like a character development or a professional development or something that is making me a better person who is going to be more equipped to be a mentor, who's going to be more equipped to be a leader, be a father, be a husband, be a brother, like all of these different things. And that's one of the most helpful things that I've really discovered in the last couple months is like, if I can just zoom out and look at it and say like, this is just a chapter of a really beautiful story that I'm trying to write. It assigns meaning to the hard shit that I'm going through. And it really allows me to maybe find some nobility in it and like be proud of myself for going through hard things. So that felt like a very long-winded answer, but those are my things when I'm in a hard place, is remind myself this too shall pass, and then try to zoom out as much as I can and just say like, I'm really trying to write a beautiful story with my life. And for this to be a beautiful story, there's got to be some hard shit that happens, or else I'm not going to be a great character throughout the whole thing. And the story's not going to mean as much when I accomplish the things that I want to. So I hope that's helpful, Hunter. I hope that answers your question. And this is really present for me right now. So if anybody has any thoughts or ideas on this, please feel free to reach out. I would love to flesh some of those ideas out more. A little bit of a heavy one, everybody. And guess what? We got another one for you. Satsang. Welcome to the Thunderdome. If you guys haven't heard of Satsang, Drew is one of my favorite humans of all time. He was episode 2 or 3 on the podcast, something like that. Go watch that episode. It's the lighting and the production and stuff like that was a little bit tricky because we didn't have these studio lights at the time and we were at his house. But content-wise, it is one of the best interviews I've ever done and one of my favorite conversations I've ever had. So listen to that. And then also one of my favorite videos we've ever done for the media company was for Drew's new song that's out right now called Summer Song. And Drew took it upon himself to essentially make a super like ironic, playful reggae banger about how twisted the reggae industry is. So what we did is we did like a little skit where he played a industry exec and then Drew played himself. And there's just like this super funny interaction between the whole thing. And the entire thing was his idea. He was just like, bro, I've got this idea. We got to go run this. And it ended up being really freaking funny and making a little bit of a splash in some of the reggae circles. So check out that video on his Instagram. watch that podcast episode, and hopefully you get as much from him as I have. So that being said, Drew asked, what are you currently most scared of? And right now, what I'm most scared of is not achieving my potential. Right now, I feel like I'm in a phase where it's like kind of that muddy middle where I can see the end vision that I'm going for, and I can see a little bit of how far I've come, but it's a really difficult phase because it feels like the only way to achieve the kinds of things that I want to achieve and the kinds of things that I want to do is to sacrifice those things for a little while, hoping that I'm going to get them. And Chris Williamson's got a very, he says it quite frequently, and I think that it's one of my favorite ideas, is that we sacrifice the thing that we want, which is happiness, for the thing which is supposed to get it, which is our hard work. So essentially, we sacrifice our happiness and we decide to work really hard in hopes that one day we will finally be happy. And I feel like that's the phase that I'm in right now. And I feel like I know that I'm in it. The sacrifice that I've been willing to make for this season is that I feel like if I work really hard right now and do the things in my business that I know that I need to do to develop a solid foundation, to provide a ton of value, and to be able to create like a really positive work environment, for me to be able to do that, I need to set aside some of the things that bring me joy so that I can have some of those things on a more sustainable basis. And to get a little bit more specific about that, like we just launched this like brand new ad offer where we're doing some like paid digital advertising on like Facebook and Instagram and setting up automated emails and doing all this stuff for businesses here in our like local region. And it's going really well so far, but I've had to like dive in to learn a bunch. It takes a lot of time on my plate. We're essentially running two businesses now because there's two different sides of the business. And it's just been super freaking busy. And it will probably continue to be that busy until like the end of the first quarter next year. And so the things that I've chosen to set aside are, I was planning on going to Running of the Bulls this year in Spain, which has been a major bucket list item for me for a long time. I was planning during that trip to go see my friend Max for his last football game in Switzerland, which is actually, by the time this comes out, it will have been last Saturday. And I had to make a difficult call to him this week and tell him that I couldn't make it. And yeah, I've just like taken a lot of like the travel and the things like that really bring me a lot of joy in my personal life. I've taken those off of the table for the next 9 months or so because I feel like if I don't really like buckle down and grind right now, that I will constantly be in this phase where like I can like kind of bug out and do some of those things and like, you know, be gone just long enough where money starts getting tight and then like come back and I'll start working and like catch back up and I'll do all these things. But like what I want to be able to do is like sustainably know that like my business is crushing it. The people who are in my business are paid well. They're excited about what they're doing. My clients are getting great value. Like I need that machine and that like system to be very well operating for me to feel confident leaving it for long periods of time. And so what I'm scared of right now is that the dream that I have for myself where I have this business that I'm very proud of, where I have the ability in my schedule to take long trips if I want to work remote if I'd like to be able to focus more on the podcast and focus more on writing and focus on creative pursuits like photography. I feel like all of those things are possible if I just get through this grind phase right now and like do the things that I need to create this solid foundation. And what I'm scared of is that I won't make it long enough to see the other side of this grind phase. I think about my mortality a lot, and I would just be real bummed out, man. Like I'm making a lot of trades right now where if I were to get hit by a bus in 2 weeks, I would have regretted not going to Switzerland, and I would have regretted not going to Running of the Bulls. And the trade that I'm making right now is that I'm willing to sacrifice some of those things for the next 9 months to hopefully put myself in a position where I can have a lot more of those kinds of experiences on a more consistent basis. So what I'm scared of is that either I won't physically make it long enough to see that, or that there will be some kind of blockages or some kind of things in the way that keep me on a sort of hamster wheel where I just like never get to that carrot or never get to that thing. So making a lot of decisions right now based around that and setting some hard deadlines for myself where I'm just going to go do the life stuff anyways, and really using that motivation over the next 9 months to be like, okay, well, we better get our shit figured out between now and then. So that's been really present for me. And that's also kind of played, this wasn't a question, but it's kind of played into an idea that I've been thinking about a lot lately. And I think at some point in your life, you just have to get good. When I was playing football, I was always like getting these compliments that I was like good for how young I was. Like growing up, I had a pretty good arm when I was a kid. And so when I was growing up, like all of the older people on the football team that my dad coached, or like all of my like dad's older friends, or like this and that, they'd be like, oh man, like he's got such a good arm for being 5. And then I would get into tackle football and they'd be like, man, your son is so good for being in 4th grade. That's so cool. And then you get to junior high and it's like, damn, dude, you're so good for a 7th grader. And like, you can really throw and you can read a defense. And this is really cool. Like you're really good for junior high. You're going to do great things. And then your freshman year, you get the same thing. He's still good for a freshman. I transferred schools, so I had to play JV my sophomore year. And they're like, wow, man, you're so good for being on JV. Like, we can't wait for you to be on varsity. And like, you're really good for how young you are. And you hear that at camps and you hear it at all these places. And you keep hearing like, you're a good for how young you are. And then at some point that stops. And you get to your junior year and you get to your senior year and you just don't hear it anymore. And nobody comes up and tells you, like, there's nobody that walks up and tells you like, hey man, it's time for you to get good. And you can't just be good for being 15 anymore. Like you're on the same playing field as everybody else. Now you just have to be good. I feel like that's really happening in my business right now and in my life where, maybe it's a product of being a little bit, I want to say older. I'm only 26, but I feel like it's like the world is showing me right now that like it's time to like get good for real. Because when I started the business, it was like, oh man, that's so cool that you like, you're so young and you have a business, and oh my God, that's so cool. Like you have a team, that's crazy. Wow, and blah, blah, blah. And like I still get some of those things because I am relatively young compared to other people who might start a little bit later. But that being said, like in this phase of my life, I'm so done being good for being how young I am, or being so good for the size of city I'm in, or being like whatever the thing. Like I just want to be good. Like I'm getting really tired of having to feel like I'm like hiding behind these qualifiers of like, yeah, like all of these different things. So that's been really present in my life right now. And that's where I feel like some of that sacrifice that I'm making like feels very worth it, is because I feel like if I actually get good, I'm going to develop skill sets and a lot of like personal traits that can transfer anywhere I go, and like will really like set a solid foundation for me to be able to like sustainably have the things that I want in my personal life once we get to the other side of this thing. So that's just kind of another idea that is a little bit random, but has been super present for me, is like at some point, dude, you just have to get good. Like you can be, successful for how young you are. You can be in shape for how young or old you are, this or that, the other thing. Like I just want to be good. And I think that nobody comes up to you and tells you, hey, it's just time to be good. You just at some point get thrown into it, and like all of a sudden everything matters. And to go back to the football thing, like all of a sudden you just have to play good and get an offer. Like if you're trying to go play college sports, like welcome to the fucking game, dude. You're like, it's your junior and your senior year. Like nobody's giving you the, oh, this is promising, or oh, you got potential. It's like, show me. You had all this potential, now produce. And I think life is much like that. And I feel like that's the phase that I'm in right now. So all that being said, Drew, what I am currently most scared of is that I will not get to the point where I get to actually actualize and like see and feel my potential. I feel like I've got a great vision for what that might look like, and I really am hoping that I can actualize that someday. So the thing I'm most scared of at the moment is not doing that for whatever reason. All right. Next question is from Miss Katie Landis. A little bit of a longer question, but how she ended it was, how do you decide, being creative, what is worth sharing, when to share, and what not to share? I was actually thinking about this last night because I have done a poor job lately of sharing some of the things that I've been thinking about and doing and stuff like that on the old social meteors. And honestly, it's tricky. Like, yeah, Brady said something in one of the earlier episodes that people preach all the time that you're supposed to be authentic on social media. And that means not just having it be a highlight reel. It means like showing people behind the scenes, so like just being a real person. But the thing that's tricky about that is like, yes, you can do that. And I think that it's very important to not just have like a highlight reel, hey, my life is perfect presence online, especially because like that's not really my message or what I talk about. But that being said, like sometimes the most authentic thing to do, back to Brady's point, is just to not post. Like when I'm down in the dumps and when I was like looking over that river and I was like, or that pond, and I was feeling all down bad and like I had to start putting my head down and working a ton and all that stuff. Like, not only do I not want to post because I feel like shit, but like sometimes I just like don't have the time also. And so like that is a little bit tricky, is figuring out like, okay, I don't want to just show the highlight reel. I also don't want to seem like I'm like crying for attention online, literally or figuratively. And it's a hard balance to strike sometimes. I also think that there's a ton of weird shit that plays into it. Like, you know, my artsy brain gets like oddly obsessed with like how my profile grid looks and like the colors and all of this other stuff. And like, if I post a writing post, should I like do like a checkered concept where like it's a writing post and then a post of me and then another writing post? Like, it's just so much, again, back to the analysis paralysis. It's like, it's so much weird stuff that nobody really cares about, but is easy to get in your own head about. So I actually don't feel like I don't have any advice here. I just think that I can speak to my experience. And lately, the thing that's helped me decide like what to share, when to share it, and what not to share is just like, is it something that feels like it's making an impact on my life right now? And is it something that is like, a lot of times one of my best filters is like, is this a conversation that I keep having? Or if I had a conversation with somebody, did they light up when we talked about something? Or did I light up when we talked about something? And a lot of times I try to trust my intuition that like, if something resonated for me, then it's probably something that somebody else could take value from. And so when I'm deciding what to share or what not to share, a lot of times it comes down to like, do I think that this will actually provide value for somebody? And did it provide enough value to me, or did somebody else tell me it provided enough value to them where I think that the world would be a better place for me putting it out into it? So that's that. When it comes to when to share, a lot of times I have to do it like right as I think about it, or else it's kind of gone. Whether that's making a video or a writing post or something like that. But one of the things that I've been struggling with lately actually is like, I think that when you have a couple of like ideas or videos or whatever that like performs well, data wise on social media, one of the traps that I feel like I fall into sometimes is I feel like after something like that happens, that everything has to be that good after that. Where like, you know, I wrote this post, it was a writing post about the idea, actually that came from the podcast with Drew, that like, don't let hard work be the only thing that you're working hard at. And it was this writing post about like, essentially that we all consider hard work as like going to the gym and working hard in our professional lives. But like doing all of these other things are hard work too. Like it's hard work being a good son. It's hard work being a good person in a relationship. It's hard work showing up and being present when you're having impactful moments. Like all of those other things in your personal life are also hard work. And a lot of people resonated with that, and it performed well on social media. So what's tricky about that, and what the trap that I fall into, is like, when I see that, it's like, okay, well, the next time I write something, it has to be that good. It has to go get 20,000 views, or it has to go do blah, blah, blah. And so sometimes it makes me stall out a little bit, and it makes me second guess, like, okay, is this idea fleshed out enough to share, or is it going to connect with enough people? Or like, I like put this weird pressure on myself that everything has to be like really good or really perfect. And clearly it doesn't, but that's one of the things that I think has stopped me from sharing as much lately as I have in the past. And it's something that I'm trying to get over. So I think what I need to do to solve that is to like just start putting stuff out again, and put stuff out that resonates with me, and look less into that filter of like, what are other people going to think about this? Or like, do I think this is impactful enough that somebody else would care, or whatever? And just trusting that, like, truly, if I connect with one other person who is impacted by the thing as much as I was, then like, that's a win. Like if, again, Brady, you're getting all the plugs on this episode, dude. He also said something too, that when I was like, it's like, yeah, but like when a video gets 500 views, like, do you feel any more pressure than when all of your videos are getting 500,000 views? It's like, fuck no, dude. Do you know how crazy this room would look right now if there were 500 people in it? Like, oh yeah, that's actually crazy. It's like, yeah, that's who you just talked to. And so when I think about it, like, if there is one person sitting in this room with me and I have a conversation with them about something that was impactful for me, and they light up and they like actually take value from that, it's like one of my favorite things in the world. So I think I need to get back to like letting that be my filter, instead of wondering if 20,000 people will find it valuable. So I feel like that's a roundabout answer for that one, but like, I don't really feel like I have a ton of advice here, but that's kind of how I like filter things, and how I decide what to share and when, and all that kind of stuff. So thank you for that. Another brief tangent, I won't go too far down this one, is I think that the more that you share, and the more that you respond to some of the ideas that are, for lack of a better term, given to you by the universe, or by God, or by whoever you think is in charge of such things, I think that gives you the ability to like continue being a channel for those things. I notice that like when I'm driving around and I like have an idea for something that I want to write about, if I take 20 seconds and like pull up in my note app and just like give myself a little breadcrumb trail to go down, or if I'm having a conversation with somebody and they say something like a quote or something like that that I really like, if I take the second to jot that down, the more times that I do something like that, the more times that inspiration show up. Like I have more aha moments in the shower. I have more ideas while I'm driving. I just like, it's almost like when I do something with those ideas, I feel like I get more of them in the future. And when I choose not to share things, or choose not to leave myself those breadcrumbs, or like capture those ideas, it's almost like that well starts to dry up a little bit until I prove again that I'm going to do something with them. So that's, something that's been present for me as well. So, I feel like my well has been drying up a tiny bit as far as inspiration and some different things go, because of the fact that I haven't been sharing as much. So I'm actively working on that. All right. Next question from Sage Collins. How would you describe your life calling, and have you felt it your entire life? Ooh, that's a good one. This is something that Summer and I have been working on a decent amount lately, and I feel like I had a pretty good breakthrough when we were working on doing some rewrites the other day. And how I would describe my life calling is that I feel like I was put here to make a positive impact on people's lives. And I struggled for a really long time with that, because I feel like I have felt that for a really long time. One of the greatest things for me is like feeling like I made a connection with somebody, or feeling like when I have a conversation with somebody and then they come back later and they're like, dude, that meant a lot to me. Or like that one thing that you said, I've been using that like in my life, or, whatever. Like, I don't really have a better feeling than that pretty much ever. But the thing that's been difficult about that is like, that is not a career path. Like, I want to make people feel good and I want to make a positive impact on the world. Like, there's a million ways to do that. Engineers do that, artists do that, therapists do that. Like, pretty much anything that you're doing, I think that you could probably make a positive impact on the world. Being somebody who is particularly leaning towards the business psycho side of things, it was very difficult for me to really like accept that as a life calling, because there's really nothing attached to it. Like, I can't go, I want to make a positive impact on the world, so I'm going to what? Like, there's so many different things to do. So right now I feel like the thing that I'm able to impact the world most positively through is this podcast. The entire thing of this podcast is about giving. Like, it's about giving people a platform to tell awesome stories. It's hopefully about giving an audience an opportunity to like take something of value from those stories and like to apply it to their lives, and to get a better perspective and like to improve their own lives. And it's also something where like those people, all of those people can then go and like give all of those things to more people. And there's like this ripple effect. So right now, this podcast and some of the writing that I've been doing, and like just this whole idea about like find people who are outliers, give them an opportunity to tell their story about like how they chase their passion and like actually dedicated their lives to it, and then encourage people to find presence along their journeys while they chase their passions. Like, I think that that's the best thing that I'm doing right now, or the best thing that I've thought that I can do to give the world. And so that really is the biggest thing that like drives this podcast. Is I feel like my life calling of like feeling like I'm here to provide a positive impact is, I think that it's like materialized right now through the pod, and through some of the writing that I've done, and through some of that stuff that I've decided to share. And so I feel like I've felt that calling my entire life, but I recently feel like I've finally found a channel for it. Quite literally, I guess. Like, subscribe, share. But yeah, I feel really excited and like honestly really relieved that I finally found podcasting last year, or maybe, I guess technically maybe 2 years ago if we started in 23. But it feels really good to finally have a channel for that, and like have an answer for, okay, you want to have a positive impact, what does that actually mean? So right now, I am the most excited about continuing doing this podcast and continuing to grow it, and build a platform for these kinds of ideas and these kinds of stories and that kind of stuff, because I think that it's the best way that I can pursue that calling of just trying to make a better impact and like make the world a better place and make other people around me feel better. So seems like a very broad answer to that question, but honestly, it's felt like a very broad thing to tackle for a really long time, and it's actually caused me a decent amount of stress. So I just feel like very relieved right now that I feel like I've found something, and I'm trying to let myself just like bask in that relief and like dedicate a good portion of myself to like committing to it now that I've gotten that answer. So there you have it. Thanks for that question, Sage. I appreciate it. The next question is from Christiana. Christiana, I have no idea how to say your last name. I'm so sorry. It's Beierle. So we're going to go with Burl. Christiana Burl. When you see me at Run Club, you can give me shit for that. Hopefully I got that right. She asked, what has been your biggest life lesson? I feel like this one is very similar to like the favorite books, favorite artist, favorite music kind of question, because I think the different life lessons are more prevalent during different times, and that is the crutch that I'm going to lean on as I answer this question. But right now, I had a realization maybe a month or two ago as I was talking to Summer, and the realization that I had is that a lot of the things that I was trying to do in my life from the time I was like 21, 22 to like 25 was I was like trying to live a life I was trying to live a life that I don't feel like I had quite earned all the way yet. Like I was taking trips that might not have been financially responsible, or I was like trying to take myself out of my business before it could effectively grow and run super well without me. Like it would do good enough, but not like something that could help me achieve my dreams. And so I felt like I would get close enough and then I would like skip a couple steps because I was like, oh man, like I could just like, sure, I could do my own schedule right now, or sure, I could bug out to Europe for 3 weeks, or I could do whatever. But what I realized was like the people that I was spending my time around who were also on those trips or who could also do those things, like they could do them without having to sacrifice something. Like a lot of my friends being in the business world are like 40 to 50 years old, or like people who have gotten into their careers and like seen a legitimate amount of success. And so they can go on a 3-week trip to Europe and they can take themselves out of their business and work in a different capacity. And they can do all of these things, but it's because they achieved that foundation and that baseline level of success that they can do those things and do it knowing that they're okay. Like knowing that they can fully enjoy the experience and that they didn't have to like leave something behind, or they didn't have to steal the experience. And so the insight that I had around that was freedom is not true freedom if you have to neglect something to get it. And the way that I felt that was when I was taking trips, when I was trying to like remove myself from my org chart and my business too quick, when I was trying to do all these different things, like what I was sacrificing was like in the travel sense was like, I'm taking these trips, but I can't all the way afford them. And so like, I'm like thinking in the back of my head, like, damn, I'm really going to have to grind when I get back home. Or I would be, like in my business, and I'm like, okay, well, I think if I took some time out here, then I could focus more on the podcast, or I could do this, that, or the other thing. But like, it wasn't really ready for me to do that yet. And so, why that insight has been so helpful for me is because, I hate when I get to a place that I should be feeling really excited about, or like on paper should be an amazing experience, and I can't enjoy it because something else is nagging at me. And how that plays out is like I'll be sitting on a trip and I'll be like constantly thinking about like, oh my God, I left so much to do when I got back home, or I'm going to have to leave the beach and I'm going to have to like go do a little bit of work tonight, or I'm going to have to do this or that or the other thing. And it's like, if I was doing that on purpose, then like, yeah, totally cool. That's fine. But if that's not the intention, it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to like set some of this shit aside so I can just go do some life stuff that I want to do. It just doesn't feel as good, man. Like I think true freedom is when you can like actually leave what you're doing. Like you can actually leave knowing that everything that you care about is taken care of. And then you can fully enjoy yourself knowing that like you're not letting somebody down. You're not screwing something up. You're not like doing something that's essentially like you're kind of letting this thing burn over here and you're neglecting it because you're like, oh, okay, I'll bring a fire extinguisher back once I like, once I enjoy this shit over here. So that's been kind of like the biggest epiphany and the biggest, I guess, life lesson that I've had recently is like, I enjoy my life a lot more when I work first and play second. And the reason for that is because it's so much easier for me to enjoy the play part and enjoy just like all of the things in life if I know that I didn't leave a bunch of stuff left undone or in a state where it could be better or something like that. Like it just nags at me so much and it's so hard for me to enjoy things. So that's part of the reason also that I'm really focusing over the next year or so of like really dialing in like so many things with the business and with my personal life and so many things like that is because like I really admire the people who have laid a solid foundation so that they can like fully enjoy all of the life things that they want to get up to. So that's what I'm trying to do right now. And it comes with some sacrifice, but I probably wouldn't have been able to fully enjoy those things anyways, knowing that I still have work to do and that I still don't feel like I've set myself up enough to like fully enjoy those experiences. So, yeah, there's definitely sacrifice in that, but that's my biggest lesson right now. Freedom isn't freedom if you have to neglect something to get it. I feel like that one was a bit wordy. I apologize if that was a rough lesson, but hopefully you guys were able to get something from that one. Question number 10. What would you go back and tell your 18-year-old self? From Portia Cortner. Portia, so freaking proud of you. My friend Portia is my best buddy's sister-in-law now, and just landed a job doing some kind of like space mining or like space engineering or something like that. She's so fucking smart, and has dedicated a ton of time and resources and all the stuff to chasing her dream. And she just landed her dream job in Austin. So Portia, if you're listening, so freaking proud of you, dude. You're awesome, and you deserve all of the things that are coming your way and all of the things that you've achieved so far. So super freaking cool. Can't wait to come visit you. That being said, what I would go and tell my 18-year-old self, buy Bitcoin. I probably wouldn't have had to do anything else other than just buy fucking Bitcoin. But not knowing about Bitcoin or not being able to play that game, I think what I would have told myself is like, I like to think about my life as a book, and I have done a poor job at times of like enjoying each chapter for what it is. And so if I had to go back and tell 18-year-old me what to do, it would be like, embrace each chapter that you're in and don't try to skip ahead in the book. For so long, like I had so much like angst and so much discomfort and so much like stress around the fact that like I always felt like I was behind. Like I was 18 or 19 and I was like, yeah, but my other buddy just dropped out and like he's got this successful business thing that's going on right now, and like maybe I should do that because like there's other kids, like this 16-year-old just started a tech company and he sold it for 100 million. And like I always knew I wanted to get into business and I wanted to like pursue that path. But I let that get in the way a lot of times of like just enjoying the phase that I was in. When I look back now and I realize that like during my sophomore and junior year, COVID hit during my junior year, and I look back at it and it's like, dude, the only things I had to worry about was whether or not my homework was done. I would go to lifting or football practice, usually during the off season. I'd just go to lifting. And if those two things were handled, like everything was gravy. There was no stress about like due dates or projects or budgets or payroll or like nothing. It was like, is your homework done? Did you get your lift in? You didn't miss it? Okay, cool. It's just like straight vibes after that. And I didn't enjoy it, man. Like there were times where I think that I probably did, but I know on a macro scale, like I had so much like stress about the fact that I always felt like I was behind, and I was like, okay, well, I need to be like hustling to get internships. I need to figure out like how to day trade, and I need to figure out how to start this business and do all these different things. And like a lot of cool experience came out of that. And I feel like I got a decent amount of like kind of cool things. And like, it probably set me up to maybe achieve some of the things that I have up to this point. But sometimes I wonder if like I would have just like fully enjoyed those moments and like, instead of sitting in my basement for an entire summer trying to start like this financial education company for college kids that never got off the ground, like what if I would have just said yes to more camping trips, or like gone to that barbecue, or just like done all of these things that were like kind of like life things that I missed out on. That seems to be the theme of this podcast, or this episode at least. But I don't think that I just like enjoyed being a college kid while I was a college kid, or I didn't like enjoy each chapter for what it actually was. Like when I was supposed, like if I was just 18, 19, 20, 21, and I just would have enjoyed doing that, um, I think that that's what I would go back and say is like, dude, everything else is going to work out. Like you're going to make mistakes either way. You're going to chase this business thing either way. You're going to do all this stuff. So like enjoy that chapter when you're in it right now. So that's what I think I would tell him. And I honestly think that it's probably advice I could use right now. Like, written on my mirror right now is chapter 2, professional development, right over where my face goes. And, the reason that I wrote that is because like by putting this label on this season that I'm in right now, where I'm like, I'm going to figure out how to get really good at this business thing that I'm doing. I'm going to figure out how to get really good at podcasting and really good at all these different things. Like I'm going to actually put my head down and learn and like prioritize getting good over everything else. That's the chapter that I'm in right now. And like, if I can fully enjoy that, and if I can fully lean into that and do all of those things, and like, it will make the story that I tell later better, because I'll have all of the things to talk about. Like, here's what it felt like to go all in. Here's the challenges that I had. Here's all of these things. Like, that's great. Then when I get to the other side of it, I want to fully enjoy that. I want to fully enjoy whatever my new relationship with business looks like. I want to fully enjoy whatever like new passions I pick up, or the amount of time I spend on the pod or writing, or like whatever those things are. I think that my brain is so future paced, and I'm almost always thinking about like, what's the next thing? How can I prepare for the next thing? How can I like kind of start like giving myself some like AP credit to like be a little bit ahead once I finally get there? And it's something that it's a lesson that I think that I could have used when I was 18, and I definitely think that I could use it now. So that's what I would tell that young buck who still had a full head of hair. I would say buy Bitcoin and enjoy each chapter for what it is, dude. Because they go quick, and I think it's important to give yourself real, like full-on experiences to look back on, and I'm trying to get better about that. All right. Last question is from at my everyday life. So clever. My amigo Avery Sturdivant. She asked, who are your dream (future) guests for the podcast? This one almost always stumps me. And the change that I made this time for this podcast was I like sat and really reflected about some of these questions, versus the first one that I did, where I kind of just did it more like improv style. And the ones that came up as I was thinking about this were like kind of even surprised me a little bit. I think that there's like the classics, like, Joe Rogan, like you could throw out fucking Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, Michael Jordan, all that kind of stuff. But as I really thought about the episodes that would mean a ton to me, these people came up. The first one is a guy named Mike Smith, which I know if you were to Google the name Mike Smith, you would probably find like a million dudes to search through. But Mike Smith is a dude who, he's got a really cool life story, and he came and spoke at my high school when I was a senior in high school. And he came and he talked about like bullying and acts of service, and essentially just being a good person and being a leader inside of your community. And I thought what he was doing was so cool, because he would show up to these schools and like do these super impactful speaking engagements. And then he would give the schools these like modules, if you will, where we would watch like one of his videos per week that would talk about like leadership or lifting people up, or how to prevent bullying, or he had like this really impactful mission of like helping the homeless. And he would do all of that, and then he went to build a skate park, and I don't know if the skate park or if something else turned into it, but he ended up with like a public high school, a skate park where a bunch of like troubled or at-risk youth could go and skate and like do all these after-school courses and all this stuff for free. And they provided jobs as baristas and all this stuff. Like, it's just so fucking cool. And I love the way that he looks at life. And back to what I was talking about earlier with like wanting to make a positive impact on the world, I think that he found that his thing through like his Skate for Change program, through the Bay in Omaha, Nebraska, and like all these different things that he did, he found a way that was authentic to him and like meant something to him, to actually make a super positive impact on the world. And although I don't want to do it just like him, I really think that he's a great role model for like the thing in general that I'm trying to do. And so I would love to have Mike Smith on the podcast because he was a huge inspiration for me in like how I chose to conduct myself, and also was an inspiration for like being willing to be public with a message and like be comfortable with sharing that message and like putting yourself out there, whether it was cringe or intimidating or any of these things at the beginning, and just being like, I'm confident that my message is positive and that this is going to impact the world. So like, I'm going to do everything that I can to get it out there and to help people. So if nothing else, I would just like to freaking thank the dude for the impact that he made on my life. And I would love to hear his story and like the things that were going on in his mind as he was doing everything that he did. So that would be one of them, is Mike Smith. If you haven't heard of him before, like look up the Bay in Omaha, Nebraska. Look up Skate for Change, which is his nonprofit, and I'm sure that you'll find him through those two things. But super great dude, and I'd be honored to have him on the show. The second one is Michael Franti. Another similar thing here. Michael Franti concert was like the first real bonding moment that I had with my little brother as young adults. I think that he was probably 16, 17 at the time. So he was like getting closer to being done with high school. And I was back home for summer during college. And it was this outdoor concert in Boise, right outside of the old state penitentiary, and like just beautiful venue. And Michael Franti concerts, if you haven't been to one, are absolutely outstanding. Like you'll have a 6-year-old like dancing and do-si-doing with a 65-year-old, and you'll have like everybody in between. And like he's just got this super good way of just helping people like connect, and it doesn't feel like you and the person that you came with are just like having this solitary experience watching the thing happen on stage. He's got this way of like making everybody feel like they're part of the same thing, and like having like this like group experience together. It's fucking awesome. And so my little brother and I, we were like had some camping chairs, and we were like sat way at the back of this thing with my dad and his girlfriend. And I remember him and I, like, we were like bopping our heads to these songs and just like super good, like upbeat reggae vibes and like all this stuff. And I was like, you know, Tanner and I both are like, we're not really dancers and all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, dude, let's go up there. Like, let's do it. Let's dance. And it was like so out of both of our comfort zones, to be like dancing with each other, because him and I had a lot of like disagreements growing up. We're like very different people and all these different things, but like we were able to set that aside and just be like, dude, this is going to be fucking fun. Like, let's just go do it. And we're just like, you know, just like bopping our heads and doing our thing, but standing up and having fun. And then like, you know, Michael's got all these prompts for people to be like, you know, like swing dance with each other, or like do-si-doing and doing all this stuff. And I'm just like seeing my little brother just like light up and get out of his comfort zone and do all this cool shit. And it was like such an impactful experience for me. And then fast forward to me having Drew McManus with Satsang as one of my best friends. And I didn't know until being friends with like Drew for like a year or so that Drew went on tour with Michael Franti for like an entire year, and credits him with giving him his big break and like all of these different things. And yeah, so like the dude has just had some super impactful, super big impacts on my life, and like probably had a pivotal like moment with my brother and I. He did amazing things for one of my like favorite friends in the entire world, and he's another dude that just like spreads positivity and just like gives himself to the world, and it's just like he's fucking awesome. So I think that he's another one of those examples of people who are just like have an incredible message, an incredible spirit, and he's doing things the right way. So I would love to like be able to thank him for some of those things, and also just like hear more about his story, because I think that a lot of people could benefit from hearing the way that he got there and the way that he conducts himself, and like some of the projects that he's worked on, and how he's ended up in the position that he's in now. So Also would be a huge freaking honor to have Michael Franti on the show, and that one would be very special. And then the last one, for anybody who listens to this show somewhat frequently or has talked to me in person, it would probably be an easy guess that Chris Williamson is my final dream guess. Chris Williamson has a podcast called Modern Wisdom that is probably my most listened to podcast. And by probably, I mean it is certainly my most listened to podcast. I absolutely love the way that the dude sees the world and the way that he thinks about things. He's a fantastic interviewer, and he has a really great way of like bringing out the best in people and bringing out like key insights while being super conversational, and like he just does the damn thing. He really cares about like bringing impactful ideas to the forefront. He tries to help people like find ways to optimize their lives and live the best way that they can. And just like has the coolest people on his show. So I would really, I take a lot of inspiration from him when it comes to what we do with this podcast, how we chose to build a studio, the ways that we do our clips, the ways that we write our descriptions. Like so much of what we do is modeled after what Chris Williamson does with Modern Wisdom. And I look up to the guy a lot. He had a really cool background coming up in business. He's done a lot of really cool things with some of his writing, with his podcast, clearly, with his personal brand, and recently launched a productivity beverage called Newtonic that I also think is one of the best consumer packaged goods plays that I've ever seen, because it's like actually delivering value exactly to the people who listen to his podcast. And he goes through like painstaking details to make sure that he's got like, their goal is to have the most beautiful podcast in the world. And I think they went through like 40 or 50 different flavor tests to like develop the flavors for their drink. And he's just like, he's got such an amazing attention to detail because he really gives a shit about like the things that he's putting out into the world. And I just admire the heck out of the dude. And he's obviously a great conversationalist too. So Chris Williamson would be a huge one, just because it'd be a real treat to be able to chat with somebody who I take a lot of inspiration from, and somebody who's got such a cool view on the world. So hopefully we are, by talking about this, maybe we're manifesting some of these things. But yeah, I'm sure that assuming that all of these people stay alive, those are the kind of people that I'm really aiming to build this show to a place where I can have them on the podcast. I think that great stories are great regardless of who's telling them. And those are three people that just like have really meant a lot to me personally. And although it's not your typical Mount Rushmore of podcast guests or anything like that, those ones would mean a ton to me. So to answer your question, Mike Smith, Michael Franti, and Chris Williamson, hopefully coming soon. But that is it for our Q&A that we've got, the questions that we've got today. I went on a little bit of a rant about it last time, so I'll make it shorter this time. But I really do appreciate everybody who's listening to this show and everybody who takes the time to submit questions. It's really cool having an audience that's like actively engaged in the things that we're talking about. And sometimes it actually surprises me because I'll be like randomly in public, or I'll run into one of my friends and they're like, dude, I have to talk to you about this thing. And it was like an idea that we had 3 podcast episodes earlier. And in those moments, sometimes I'm like, dude, how did you know I was thinking about that? Like, yeah, you said it on your podcast, dude. So I forget sometimes that I've got like, I don't know, at this point, like a couple hundred hours of me yapping on the internet. But it's really cool because it's like when I have those conversations with people, I can tell that like they're listening intentfully. They're, like matching things up to their own life. They've got their own spin on it and their own take and all these different things. And like, it's just been so cool, man. And it's brought a lot of really cool things to my life and a lot of really cool people that have just been super awesome to connect with. And it's also deepened a lot of relationships that I've had with like friends and my family and all those kinds of things, just because like good conversation tends to do that. So thank you to everybody who's listening to this. If you've made it this far in the episode, thank you for making it through my rambling. I'm actively trying to get better at doing these Q&A podcasts because I'm actually quite a bit more comfortable being in the position where I can just operate out of curiosity and like ask questions and try to bring out the best in a guest. And whether it's like on these podcasts or in my personal life, I actually get quite uncomfortable when I'm the one that's like filling most of the space and like talking the most. I'll like drive home and be like, dude, why didn't you shut up when you were getting coffee with your buddy? Like what, so I don't know. Anyways, these are something that I'm actively trying to get better at. As a consumer of podcasts, I get super excited when like Chris Williamson or Chris Griffin or Stephen Bartlett or somebody like that, like will do a solo podcast. And I'm trying to give myself the credit that maybe some of you guys will enjoy these ones as well. So doing my very best to choose thoughtful questions that people submit. There were some on here that definitely didn't make it, that were either a little too goofy or whatever else, but trying to choose really thoughtful questions. I'm definitely going to continue sitting down and like really trying to marinate on these answers and like have some bullet points for thoughts that I want to flesh out on these podcasts. And so that being said, like any questions that you guys have coming up for the next solo Q&A on episode 30, would love to hear from you guys. If you have any other questions or things that inspired you about this episode, feel free to DM my personal page, DM Press for Presence, drop it in a Spotify comment and a YouTube comment. I really want to start to foster a community around things because not only do I find a ton of value in like having conversations about some of these things, but there's a community of other people who listen to this show who are also extremely thoughtful. And my guess is that if you guys have some conversations with each other, that would also be extremely valuable. And it would be such a treat for me to like even get to experience like seeing two people that I know from different circles connect over something that happens on the podcast. So leave some comments. If you thought something was cool, share your favorite moment, share something that you're thinking about, share something we didn't talk about that we should have. Yeah, I hope that this was a pleasure to listen for you guys. Like I mentioned before, we don't run any ads on this podcast. We don't have any sponsors yet. We don't do anything like that. So as I try to continue growing the show, the thing that is the absolute most helpful is if you guys subscribe or follow on whatever platform you guys are on, whether that's Spotify or YouTube or Apple or whatever the thing is. The reason for that is because it shows like potential guests and potential things like that we are building an audience of people who are thoughtful and engaged in all those different things. And it actually helps me bring better guests on so that like the conversations and stuff like that we get to have continue to be awesome. So that is my one ask of you guys. And if you've made it this far, thank you so much for listening and for, like I said, listen to me yap for the last hour and a half now. That being said, we've got some really cool episodes coming up that I'm super excited about. If you have any guests that you would like to see on the podcast, if you've got friends, mentors, idols, anything like that, we are looking at booking a couple of trips to drop into some different cities, record a couple of episodes. So like, we went down to Boise a handful of times and did, 2 to 3 episodes over a weekend, flew back to Billings, did some here. We did the same thing in Sheridan. I'd love to find people in Denver, Minneapolis, Austin, wherever some of the hot spots of people that you are inspired by and love. I'd love to drop in and chat with them. So hit me up, make some suggestions. My job is to make the show as cool as possible for you guys and for you to get as much value out of it as possible. So I'm very much okay with that being a collaborative effort and to get your guys' help with that. So per usual, you guys are awesome. I'm super excited to be here, and this project means more to me than just about anything. So thank you for supporting it. And if you've been listening up to this point, you know how we close this thing. Love you so much. Be where your feet are. See you on the next one.